Some faces we forget the moment they pass. But some, they cling to your soul, even if you never spoke a word. I was 16 the day I saw him. And even though we never said hello, his handsome face clung to my memory for ages, and he remembered my name years later, when I thought he'd long forgotten me. I still remember that hot afternoon like it happened yesterday. My dad had just dropped me off at the Extramural Class Center, a quiet building near a row of shops. I had completed my SS3, but registered for extra lessons, just in case WAEC decided to play games with my results. My dad always said, "Prepare like you're failing but expect to pass." I walked into the hall and made my way to the teacher seated at a desk under the ceiling fan that buzzed like a tired bee. As I gave my full name, Sandra Chukwuma, and confirmed my payment, a voice beside me repeated it slowly. "Chukwuma." I turned slightly. A boy about 17 stood at the table beside me. Chubby, dark-skinned, with a quiet sharpness in his eyes. He wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, his hands in his pockets like someone who wasn't in a hurry. He looked directly at me. "Where are you from?" I was startled. My voice trembled as I answered. "Owerri." "Wow," he said, nodding slowly. Then he just smiled and walked away. I found out later that he didn't attend the classes. He only lived nearby and sometimes came around to see a few of his friends who did. After that day, I noticed him often, standing under a tree laughing with his guys or leaning on the fence. We never spoke again. Not once. But something happened every time our eyes met. My heart would do this funny skip. Not fear. Not anxiety. Something warmer, something strange. I started looking forward to going for the classes, not for chemistry or literature, but just to maybe catch a glimpse of him. But we never talked. No greetings. No accidental bumping into each other. Nothing. Just two teenagers stealing glances and pretending not to care. I didn't understand the feeling then. I was 16. And reserved. I was raised to focus on my books, avoid boys, avoid drama. So I buried it. Pushed the feeling down and told myself it was nothing. Then WAEC results came out. Passed every subject. My JAMB score was high. I got admitted into the university on my first try. That should have been the happiest moment of my life. But the first thing I thought was, I won't see him again. And I didn't. University life was different. Loud. Colorful. Boys everywhere. From fresher boys to final year men. I had admirers left, right, and center. Some brought flowers. Others money. Some used emotional blackmail. Some tried to bribe me with phones and shoes. But no one moved me. 'Cause no one was him. Even though we had never spoken, that boy from the Extramural Center had built a house in my memory. And somehow I couldn't move anyone else in. I started to feel foolish. How can I fall for someone I never had a conversation with? But it was real. The way my heart would race at the memory of his eyes. The way I held on to that one moment when he called my surname like it meant something. I kept telling myself to move on. But I couldn't. Fast forward. I graduated. Got posted to Port Harcourt for NYSC. I served at a commercial bank in GRA. I took the job seriously as always. Quiet. Focused. No distractions. Then one Thursday afternoon everything changed. I had just finished helping a customer open a new business account when the next person in line stepped forward. I looked up, ready to offer my usual bank smile, and froze. It was him. He looked older now. Stronger jawline, confident shoulders, beard neatly trimmed, more handsome, extremely handsome. He was wearing a crisp white shirt and navy blue trousers. But the eyes were the same. I tried to maintain my composure, but my hand shook slightly as I reached for the form. I didn't expect him to recognize me. Why would he? Had been years. But then he said it. Sandra Chukwuma. And blinked. Excuse me. He smiled. You attended extra classes near Federal Road about 5 years ago. You were always early. My lips parted, but no words came out. I never forgot your name, he said quietly. I didn't even know if I'd ever see you again. I felt my heart thud so loudly, I feared he could hear it. My palms were suddenly damp. For years, I had carried that moment like a secret. I thought I was the only one affected. But now, he was standing here, remembering my name, my face, the very spot where it all began. And just like that, the quiet fantasy I had hidden for years cracked open and spilled into reality. I don't remember breathing. As he stood there, calling my name like it was a song he'd replayed 1,000 times in his mind, I stared at him, unable to speak, unable to blink. The bank's gentle hum, the soft beeping of machines, the whirring of printers, the faint murmur of customers, faded away. It was just us in that moment. Sandra and the boy who once stood by a register and asked me question. But now he was a man. Still, that boyish glow clung to him in traces, especially around the eyes. Eyes that once looked at me from across the road, silently, searching, yearning. Now they looked at me with certainty, recognition, purpose. "You remember me?" I asked again, this time finding my voice. He laughed softly. "Sandra, I couldn't forget you even if I tried. I came around that extra class center more times than I needed to. Just to see you. You never spoke to me again. You always looked far away. I thought you didn't notice me," I whispered. "I noticed everything." His eyes twinkled, and suddenly I felt shy, like that 16-year-old girl again, standing with chalk dust on her skirt and dreams in her eyes. We stood in silence for a few seconds. Then, as if realizing where we were, he stepped aside and gestured. "I should probably let you get back to work. Didn't mean to cause a scene." "Wait," I said quickly. "Are you banking here?" "Yeah, just opened a new account. I moved back to Port Harcourt recently. Got transferred from Abuja. I work in an oil-producing firm." Course. He had that confident, polished, yet grounded energy. The kind you only develop when you've tasted real wealth. He handed me the slip he had been filling out. "My name's David, by the way. David Obianuju. But you already knew that name, right?" I blinked. "No, I didn't. You never told me." David laughed again, scratching his head. "Wow, thought you knew. I guess I assumed you'd asked around." Smiled. "I guess I thought, if it was meant to be, I'd find out one day." He looked at me for a long moment. Well, here we are. After helping him finalize his transaction, I watched him walk toward the exit. He paused just before pushing the door open and turned. "Will you have lunch with me sometime?" he asked. My lips parted to answer, but I was too overwhelmed. He smiled again, softly this time, and nodded. "I'll wait," he said, and stepped outside. The days that followed were strange. My world, once predictable and orderly, suddenly felt electric. I couldn't stop thinking about David, about how fate had brought us back together after all those years. I questioned if it was real, or if it was just nostalgia dressing up old emotions in new excitement. But no, this was different. This was deeper. He came by again 3 days later. This time, with a small bouquet of yellow roses. "They reminded me of your smile," he said, casually placing them on my desk while customers watched with quiet curiosity. I blushed so hard I had to excuse myself to the restroom. From there it began. Lunches turned into evening strolls. Evening strolls turned into phone calls that lasted well past midnight. We spoke about everything. Childhood memories, fears, faith, family, music, scars. I told him about my years in school, how I fought to stay focused despite distractions. He told me about his school days too, how he sometimes came to that extra class center just to feel a sense of direction again, how he tried to locate me by asking people around but to no avail. "I was drawn to you, Sandra," he said one night as we sat at the waterfront. "You had this quiet fire. I didn't know what it was, but it made me believe there was still something pure left in the world." His words undid me. I had never been seen like that before. I began to wonder, why had it taken so long for us to find each other again? Or maybe we had to become who we are now before the universe could reunite us. But life, I've learned, doesn't always follow the fairy tale script. Just when I started letting my guard down, something happened that shook me.
We have come to the end of episode 1. Thank you for watching. 5 years. One memory. Two hearts that never spoke, yet never forgot. Sandra thought it was over. David thought he'd lost her forever. But destiny has a way of rewriting endings. Now that they've found each other again, will love finally begin? Or will reality destroy the fantasy they both carried for years? We will like to read your comment on this. Episode 2 will reveal everything. Subscribe and stay with me on this journey. Because some faces don't just linger and go. They return.